Alrighty, chat. Welcome to another Healthy Gamer GG stream. My name is Alok Kanoja. Just a reminder that although I am a psychiatrist, nothing we discuss on stream today is intended to be taken as medical advice. Everything is for educational or entertainment purposes only. If y'all have a concern or a question, please go see a licensed professional. Happy Friday, everybody. Today we've got an awesome interview with someone else from the Trash Taste podcast. So we will be learning more, maybe about anime, maybe about life, maybe about what kind of taste is trash. I think we're going to be talking with CDawg. We'll figure out what his name is. I'm not sure exactly what his name is, but we'll figure that out. Yeah, so that's going to be fun. We'll hop into that in just a couple minutes. We just have one quick announcement. So we finally actually have personal coaching spots open once again. They've been full for a while. We've been basically full since October of last year, actually, so almost 1 year. And so if y'all are interested in sort of like applying the HG approach to your life, I definitely check out personal coaching. So there's a reason it's full. Like we started out with like 8 coaches. We now have over 100, and we use evidence-based methodologies to help y'all target the challenges that you face today. So a big reason that we developed a coaching program is because I sort of noticed, or it was my belief anyway, that psychiatry couldn't quite keep up with the times. Like we have a lot of great research and stuff, but like the world is just a different place and we need like modern solutions. And so our coaching program is actually sort of has an injection of kind of spiritual approaches. It's not like religious in nature, but I kind of took everything I learned as a psychiatrist and everything that I learned as a monk. I wasn't a monk trainee for 7 years, and then kind of put them together. And then I teach each and every one of our coaches and also continue to work with them if they've got challenging cases and stuff like that. And we see really good outcomes. So, a couple of things just to keep in mind. We were featured at the American Psychiatric Association this past year for some of the work that we're doing. We've had various collaborations with other kinds of organizations. We've got a pilot study that hopefully we'll be publishing soon, the results of, and we tend to see like really good outcomes. And a big part of that is we focus on things that psychotherapy doesn't really necessarily exclusively focus on. So life purpose is a good example. So if we look at for example, the number one reason that people get addicted, or not reason, the number one risk factor for pornography addiction is actually a sense of meaninglessness in life. So a lot of the challenges that we face are because we don't really know what we're doing, right? We don't really know what's worth sacrificing for. Everyone's saying I should major in STEM. I don't really like STEM. Is my job going to be replaced by AI? I don't know. So we kind of focus on helping people find their purpose in life. And that helps people do things like overcome addictions. It helps people find motivation. It gives them a reason to kind of get out of bed in the morning because you've got a life worth living. So we see about a 58% improvement in life purpose at about the 12-week mark. And our sample size for that is like over 1,000 people, by the way. So it's not just like, hey, we helped like 5 people and these are our results. So definitely check it out if y'all want. I know people have been on the waiting list for a long time. We had over 1,000 people on the waiting list. So there are spots kind of opening up every day. So definitely check it out. Okay. Okay. So let's hop in with CDawg. Okay. Let me do this. Did I just screw it up? Oh, no. Hello. Can you... Hold on 1 second, okay? I think I just screwed up my headphones. Oh, nope. You came through silky smooth. Good.
Oh, okay.
God.
Good.
That is silky smooth. Okay, give me 1 second. I gotta fix this every time we stream. You'd think that we'd be able to figure this out at this point. Oh, hey, it works.
It's how it goes. You have like a temporary fix, and you're like, I'll just use this every time.
Yeah, but now it looks like we didn't, or something didn't save. Okay, and what do you go by the way? I know that no.
You can just call me Connor.
Connor. Okay, so we're gonna take. Oh no, nope.
Do you prefer Dr. K as well, or?
Yeah, you can call me Dr. K if you want. A lot of people prefer that because my first name is sometimes hard to pronounce.
All right, yeah, we'll stick with Dr. K then.
But you could call me Alok if you want. I'm not.
Hello?
Alok?
Alok? Okay.
Yeah.
Alok or Dr. I feel like Dr. K in the setting makes sense. It
Sure.
feels like an appropriate title.
Sure. If
And
you
what a
say
cool title to have.
I'm sorry?
It's a cool title to have. I'm jealous.
Why, thank you. And do you have a title in your job?
No. I'm people like to refer to me as Monkey sometimes in the chat.
Monkey.
Yeah, yeah, that's a whole story.
Do tell.
I'm often, well, I suppose it originated because I don't really, when I listen to music, I expect expressing this on our podcast, that I just can't hear lyrics. Like I listen to the music and I understand like the feeling and the beat and everything, but I don't take in any of the lyrics. And then they were like, "Oh, you sound like a monkey." I'm like, "Okay, I guess so." And then it stuck, and everyone calls me it now.
Wow, interesting. Any other problems like absorbing language? Like, are we stumbling into an aphasia of some kind?
I don't know. I've never thought about it that way.
If you try
I've
to understand lyrics, can you understand lyrics, or you just
that's
huh?
that's a great question. No one's ever dug that deep. It's weird. I can like listen to the words being said, but when they're being sang in a song, I'm like incapable of attaching any meaning to them for some reason. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So, but if you try, does it work, or it doesn't work even with effort?
I should test this now.
I'm just curious because sometimes people will have. Do you know what an aphasia is?
I think I've heard of this, but I'm not. Please refamiliarize
So there's
me
like
with
the part of your brain that processes words, right? So like there's this part of our brain called Broca's area, which is just a part of our brain that processes words, and sometimes like people, you'll have like some kind of word processing problem. So sometimes it can result in things like dyslexia, but interesting. But maybe. Yeah, whatever.
Maybe for a long time when I was in school, I always thought I had dyslexia. We're getting into the shit right away.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
But I've never also my spelling is terrible as well. But I've never had any like when I see people who are dyslexic explain it to me, I'm like, no, I don't have this issue ever.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird thing. But I guess maybe I have the traits that make people think I do.
Well, so I think one thing to remember is that when we've got a function in our brain, like let's say language processing, I think the reason that we're so good at diagnosing dyslexia is because there is a particular way that our language processing can kind of get messed up. And that can be dyslexia. But there are all these other language processing potential problems that we just don't have names for, or we don't really look for. Right. So like
I could believe that something.
So I'm kind of curious, and I'm going to do a literature search after we're done talking today about whether there are case reports of people who cannot recognize lyrics in songs.
Yeah, I mean, like I can understand the English being said, but it's just very, very difficult for me to like actually listen to it because then it takes away. I'm not listening to the music. Then I'm listening to what they're saying. It's a completely different experience for me. I don't know how to.
Can you sing along?
No, most of the time not. Most of the time not. I mean, like, yeah, I'll know like a line, but I'll never know. Like, no matter how many times I listen to a song, it is impossible for me to just from listening only to pick up all the lyrics. It just won't happen.
And what about like, can you sing like? Do you like sing in the shower and stuff?
And if I do, it'll be like humming or like one line. It'll never be like a.
So you can't sing like "Mary Had a Little Lamb."
No, I wouldn't know what the rest of it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
I realize, yeah, that sounds so strange.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah. Okay, I didn't know that either. I never really looked too much into it. I was like, yeah, I just don't listen to the lyrics. Not that big of a deal. But now that I think about it, I'm like, yeah, I guess I just don't listen to any of it, and I never take any of it in.
Yeah, that was not. Anyway, I mean, it could just be. I don't know. It's just weird. It's a phenomenon that's this is relatively common, by the way. So like when I talk to people,
God. I was like, oh my God, is this some kind of stage 3 Alzheimer's sign?
No. I wouldn't. I mean, you can go talk to a real medical professional at some point if you want, but just okay. In my experience, like a lot like we have so many functions in the body, in the brain, in the mind. Yeah. Like there's so many things that we do, and like everyone's a little bit scuffed in some way, and chances are you can't figure everything out. right?
Yeah,
Like
makes
so
sense.
so
Yeah.
most human beings, for example, we don't realize this, but one of our legs is longer than the other, one of our arms is longer than the other. We have like
What?
even if you look at the thickness of your two hands, one of your hands is going to be thicker than the other. Look at the wrists, and you'll notice that on the other
Yeah.
side.
Okay.
Flip them over. Yeah, if you look at the underside, you'll see like one of them is like thicker.
Oh yeah. What the heck?
Do you sleep? Do you sleep with an arm under your head
I do.
on the
Yeah.
left side?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is kind of crazy. So it looks like your right
Okay.
arm is thicker.
Yeah. I would say
Yeah.
my right arm is thicker.
So it's really fascinating, right? So there's like a masturbation joke here, but what it really is that when you, it's kind of crazy, but what one person kind of told me, right? So if we're able to predict that you sleep on your left side with an arm under your, like that's kind of interesting, right? Am I
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
you while you sleep? Always a possibility. But really what it is that if you sleep on your left side and you sleep with your arm under your pillow, that hand will get slightly less blood flow over the course of your life. And so it'll actually grow a tiny bit less, which you can notice.
Oh. Okay. Well, I didn't. Yeah.
There are all
Yeah. I
kinds of
always
weird
sleep on my
stuff that we
side, so
don't.
I guess that makes sense.
Anyway, I know we just kind of jumped into weirdness.
Yeah, we did. Wow. Yeah. That was
And how you're such an unusual human being. My apologies for that.
all good. All good. I expected as such.
That's common, but like I said, it's common. That's the reason I pointed out everyone's that way. But is there anything in particular you want to talk about today?
No, not really. I've never. So to fully disclose, I've never done any type of therapy or any type of psychiatry or anything like that at all. So to me, I was like, this. I've watched the show a bunch. I really like what you do, and I was like, I thought it'd be pretty cool because I saw Gaunt go on, and obviously Gaunt's a really close friend of mine, and he was like, yeah, it was super fun, and I was like, okay, well, I've never done anything like this, so I'd be down to try.
Sure. So just a couple things that I want to make clear. I'm not going to be diagnosing you for
I know. Yeah.
Right. So and that's not. It looks different, but one thing that I can offer you is that there's something that you want to learn about yourself or learn about a particular topic. We can kind of talk about it. Sometimes people have questions about stuff.
Yeah.
And I've spent a couple years like Garnt studying to become a monk and then became a psychiatrist. So happy to like sort of share any of that information about something as it relates to your life. Anything that you want to talk about or you're interested in learning more about?
Honestly, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, there's a few things that I guess I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Let's do it.
Because I'm sure that you've probably had this with other people who are in the same profession as me. Work-life balance. How do I attack that? Like, so for me, I feel that right now, probably one of my I don't know how to explain it. I wouldn't say I'm unhappy with it because I choose to work as much as I do, and I work quite a lot. But sometimes I often feel that like, damn, I wish I had more time to hang out with friends. But then I also at the same time, I'm always thinking like, how much should I hang out with friends? Is it just I should hang out with them as much as until I feel satisfied, or it's so hard for me to figure out sometimes.
Yeah, of course. So here's kind of what I'm hearing, that work-life balance is maybe something you need to learn a little bit more about.
Yeah, I mean, I just work a lot.
Okay. And I'm also hearing that you're kind of okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I am. I wish that I could somehow figure out my headspace of trying to figure out how to navigate. Okay, I like working as much as I do, but I want to make sure that I'm able to give time to the people that I really care about. And then also, I'm also just really bad at saying, I'm okay at saying no. I think actually I've got a lot better. But sometimes there's this strange sensation that comes with this job where I guess sometimes people want to hang out and I don't know how to say no sometimes because I'm like, I just don't. For me, it's like, okay, how do I explain this without sounding like a stuck-up asshole? Like some people, I guess that some people always want a connection more than you want a connection sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of relationship there. And so I sometimes struggle if somebody's very nice and friendly and I get on with them well, but maybe I'm just not able to give back the same kind of level. I have no idea how to even begin to kind of handle that.
Yeah, this is fantastic, Connor. You
okay? Really?
How
okay,
are you feeling about all this? You doing okay right now?
Yeah, I mean, I feel fine about it, and I feel like I'm managing it all. I just feel like I always think I could do better in everything, in terms of, I think it's easy to do that when you're doing something like streaming and YouTube because you have so much analytics. But obviously in real life, there are no analytics. There's no feedback. There's no view counter or something like that. You know what I mean? So you're kind of like hoping that you're just doing the right thing a lot of the time. And I guess that's where I kind of struggle with. Is like I'm like, man, I think I'm doing the right thing, but sometimes I just don't know.
Okay. How do you know whether something is the right thing?
I knew when I said that you're gonna ask that. I don't know. I just feel that my gut just says it's the right thing, and I feel like oftentimes I am more willing to give people the benefit of the doubt. So if my gut is telling me, hey, maybe don't do this or don't spend time with this person, I'm like, okay, if I have that feeling, then it's probably something that there's some reason why I'm feeling that way. If I'm more often than not giving people the benefit of the doubt, if that makes sense. I don't know.
And how does that work out for you when you give people the benefit of the doubt?
Some is fine. I mean, you know, I'm sure you've hung out with someone who you've probably hung out with someone one time and you were like, wow, they were nice, but man, there was just no connection there. You know what I mean? There was no kind of emotional rapport. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's gonna be...
Yeah, I'm with you. So
Okay.
here I asked you the question.
Okay, yeah.
And Connor, how thick is your skin? Are you like okay if I joke around about some
you
of
can
this
dig
stuff?
into me. It's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really don't mean, you know, it's just
You roast me.
for whatever reason we've gotten off on a weird tone for this conversation, and I'm going to run with it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's great. I love it.
Okay.
I love it. It's just I'm afraid that I'm going to hurt your feelings at some point if I keep
You can
on
absolutely
meaning
hurt my feelings. Go for it. Please do.
Okay, but can I rely on you to let me know if I say things that do hurt your feelings?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
You want me to verbally just tell you?
Yeah, just like, hey, man, that's a little bit too much. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
or you can just say, fuck you. That works too. Okay. So I asked you the question, how does it work out for you when you give people the benefit of the doubt? And you said sometimes it's fine. Not a ringing endorsement for doing that.
Yeah, I guess so.
So I have an idea of what we can talk about today. So
okay,
I think
cool.
we're going to help you understand what's on the inside. Like,
that would be
Connor?
great.
Because what I'm sort of getting the sense of is that there's a part of you that you judge as an asshole. And like the part of you that doesn't want to hang out with people and doesn't want to do these particular things. And then there's another part of you that's like, you know what? We shouldn't be that way. We should have faith in humanity.
Yeah.
And so we should take that part of us, and we don't want to give in to the part of us that does not like hanging out with other people.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess. That's a very bizarre way of putting it. I guess in my head, but yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, there's definitely an asshole side. I think you need an asshole side. I don't know if I'm correct in thinking that way, but I think there's a part of you that needs to have that.
Yeah, tell me about that. Why do you need an asshole side?
Sorry, that was such a fun question that you phrased it that way.
No, I mean, I think we're getting into good, because people don't talk like this, right? We don't acknowledge that there's a part of us that sometimes we kind of, there's a lot of self-judgment, and so what do you think it does for you to kind of set limits around people?
Yeah, I would love to entirely blame all of the job for being like, oh, it's all the jobs. But it's obviously not. That's not where it comes from. But I think because from doing streaming and all this stuff, and we're interacting with so many people so often, I just feel that, oh man, it sounds like such a stuck-up thing to say, but I guess generally people want to hang out like in this kind of stuff more with me than I want to with other people, just because there's a lot more people I interact with. And I guess that asshole side is kind of like a way of having some form of like inner protection, or kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna only allow, or just kind of give my time to people I feel that are gonna have good intentions, or will kind of have meaningful friendships, I guess, in a way. But that's a hard part. Making any meaningful friendships is also really tough. But I feel like I'm still okay at it.
Yeah. So if you said that you'd like to blame the job entirely, but you can't. So
yeah,
if you can't blame the job, then where does that come from?
That's probably just I guess from me, from my entire existence. I think I was not very extroverted growing up. Became a lot more extroverted from after university or during university. And then now lately, I really feel like I'm getting more introverted traits again. I'm finding it sometimes where I used to get really excited to hang out with people. Because sometimes now, if I hang out with certain people who I feel like I don't know, it's not as fun as it used to be for whatever reason. Find it a lot more draining. And not as kind of satisfying and kind of like, I guess the recharging of the battery is the analogy a lot of people use.
And Connor, I know we're kind of being a little bit memeish here, but I don't get the sense that you're an asshole at all. I get the sense that sometimes other people want to hang out, and for them it's fun, and for you it sounds like sometimes it's a chore.
Yeah, and I don't really know how to explain that to someone and be like, hey, I just don't want to right now for whatever reason, whether it's I want to focus on work for that particular day, or I want to do something else, or maybe I just don't get on with this person as well as maybe they think we do, or something like that can happen.
Can you give me an example of what someone may say to you?
What, to just hang out or anything? Yeah. I guess some people.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's like people who I'm kind of friendly with, and you know, I have sort of good good relationship with, and maybe I like it when I see them, but I wouldn't want to be like stuck in a room with them for like 4 or 5 hours, you know.
Tell me about it.
And so they'd be like, hey, let's get dinner or something, and then I'm kind of like, oh, the general excuse is, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm busy, which is true. But sometimes maybe I allow it to kind of carry more weight than it actually has.
Yeah, do you have kids?
We can move stuff around in this job a lot of the time.
You have kids?
I don't, luckily. Yeah.
So if you've got kids, it's the ultimate excuse. Yeah, sorry, you can like always invoke
I'll just
the children.
get a kid real quick. I'll just go.
You can just, it works great. And so they'll say like, hey, like you want to hang out sometime, and how do you feel when they ask you that? Like what happens internally?
Oh, I feel awful. Like, cause I know I want to socialize and I want to hang out with people, but I know that I would most likely have a decent time or a fun time, but it's just kind of hard for me to sometimes really, I guess, kind of, I don't know how to describe it. Yeah, it's tough. I just feel bad, and I hate feeling bad, and I don't know why I feel bad about it. I mean, I guess I feel bad because I didn't meet someone's expectation in a certain way, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a whole other thing.
What kind of thing is that? Tell me about that thing.
Well, I feel like I just, I feel like it's a general human thing where you're like, it'd be nice if people like me, but also I don't need them to. But I guess if it's somebody I kind of am friendly with or I trust, I kind of don't want to disappoint people who are close to me, or I like in that way.
It can be really tiring to socialize if meeting other people's expectations is important to you. Right? Because it's like, then you're not doing it there. You're like, now I have to, it's almost like you're getting tested, right? It's like, okay, now I'm here in this situation, and now I gotta
I'm hitting the bingo card.
I'm sorry?
I'm hitting like the bingo sheet of like things I'm saying, but it's fine, dude.
What do you mean by that? What's on the bingo card?
I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm a people pleaser, I'm a YouTuber, yada yada. This is...
What else? Tell me what's on the bingo card.
No, I'm kidding. Okay. Carry on. I interrupted you, please.
No, so yeah, I mean, it sounds kind of tiring, right? And you say feels bad. So another thing that's kind of interesting is that men have something called normative male alexithymia. Okay. So alexithymia means color blindness to your internal emotional state. Okay. And we call it normative male alexithymia because it is normal for men to be alexithymic. So we're raised in a particular way where we're not really taught what we feel. So we're not taught to articulate our emotions. And so then if I ask you, how does it make you feel? You're like, I feel bad. Me no like feeling bad. Right?
That's pretty much the gist. Yeah, I don't know how to properly articulate it.
Yeah, no, and that's okay. Like it's actually normal. Like, so there's like research on how this is like the normal experience of men, and then it puts us in kind of a weird situation because we feel like you kind of feel bad if you say no, right?
Yeah.
And then if you say yes, do you also feel bad?
Sometimes, not all the time. It just depends how it goes, really,
right?
and what else I have going on.
But is that the same badness that you feel if you say yes or you say no?
I don't think so. I think it's different. Different.
What's different about the two?
I guess sometimes if I say no to someone, it's more of like, I guess we said earlier, like disappointment or kind of feeling like I'm not meeting someone's expectation, whatever reason. And then I guess if I say yes, feels bad. Sometimes I'm like, okay, this is going to be. Sometimes it can be quite draining, or kind of a lot. And yeah, I guess it's tough because then I also think in my head I'm like, man, I have some really close friends that I don't get to see as much, and I feel bad that I'm not hanging out with them when I'm hanging out with someone I just met or something. I don't know. I feel like there's this weird part of my brain that feels like I don't know. I should hang out with people who are closer to me more often than people I'm just meeting. But I don't think that makes any sense. But I don't know why I feel that way.
Yeah, so good. So I mean, not good. Good in the sense that this is a great place to start. So
Yeah.
what I'm noticing, Connor, is that you actually have quite a like the inside of you is a robust city. It's a metropolis of different
wow.
pulls and pushes and feelings and shoulds.
Okay.
Right? I should hang out with my friends more,
Yeah.
and then I also should make new friends.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do any of that today. I just want to go home.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah,
watch a little bit of anime, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just what you feel like doing. And so I'm kind of noticing that it's actually like, not that it sounds like you've got everything under control, right? So you're like doing
I feel like
well.
I've got everything under control. Yeah.
Yeah, like you're doing well in life.
Yeah.
But it's like there's this kind of one slice of the pie that is Connor. That's maybe a little bit out of sorts.
Yeah.
And I'm also getting the sense that, I don't know if so let me know if this resonates with you, but that you're kind of like a ping pong of like vague bad feelings on the inside. That if you do this, you kind of feel bad in this way. And then if you don't do that, you feel bad in this way. Is that?
Yeah. Yeah. That can often happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you add any color to that? Like, can you give us an example of how you felt that way or anything kind of jumped to your mind? It's a hard question because I'm kind of dumping it on you, but.
No, it's fine. Yeah. I guess it's mainly with the social stuff. I suppose I'm trying to get better at. So I feel like I'm strong in social situations and I understand social situations very well, and I enjoy being in them sometimes. But yeah, just as of late, I suppose maybe I've been. That's why I feel that way. And then maybe there's someone who, which I guess I don't do this normally because I really like, being reliable, and I guess not like a while ago, like a month or two ago, if I schedule to hang out with someone, I'm always going to show up. It's never not going to happen. But then I guess one time, like a month ago, I was like, I just messaged them. It was like a fair amount. It was like a week before, so it was still a decent amount of time. I was like, hey, I just don't think I have time for this. But I did have time, but I just really didn't want to be there, and I felt awful doing that. I'd already agreed to do something, and then I went back on it, and I feel that that's just like I don't know. I hate going back on when I agreed to do something. I really hate it.
What do you hate about it?
I think, I think being reliable as a person is a very trait that I like to hold myself. That I'm kind of I don't know how to describe it. I guess I like to be reliable because I've been around a lot of people who have not been reliable, and it's very frustrating. And it's very, I'm sure everyone can relate when they have that one friend who they know is always reliable regardless of the situation. It's just always great to have around and great to be a part of their life. And so I like to think that by being a reliable person, not only do I make my life easier, but also I can then enrich the lives of people around me by just being a reliable person.
Sounds like a win-win situation.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, sometimes it sucks because you agree to things. You're like, I didn't want to do that. But, I think that it's more important to be reliable and do something than just always flake or not show up to things or not do things when you promised or miss deadlines. I don't think I've ever missed deadlines or done anything like that. I always make sure I do everything on time.
How do you feel about that?
I guess I like that I feel I'm responsible. I don't know if everyone around me feels the same way, but I like that. I don't know. I guess there's some form of pride from being a reliable person, I suppose.
I mean, do you feel pride? You like proud of yourself? Like, there's a reliable guy right there.
Only when you work, sometimes you work with someone and they're so unreliable where you're like, wow, I'm doing the bare minimum constantly. Like I'm showing up and I'm doing, I'm being a part of things, and when I say I'm going to turn up or I say I'm going to be there on this time, I always show up on that time. And I don't know why I feel that way, but I guess it's just maybe I've just been scarred from everyone around me who I've worked with at some point. Is not everyone, but like a bunch of people who've been pretty unreliable.
And when did you start encountering unreliability in your life?
Oh, absolutely. When mainly when I started doing YouTube, 100%. That was when I started realizing that I was like, oh wow, so many people just don't care.
Do you feel comfortable sharing a story about that? Does anything like come to mind? We're not trying to like crap talk anyone.
There's one good story I have that I guess I can really summarize it. So when I started doing YouTube, there was my chat's gonna be like aware the emote. Sorry when they know this one. It's a pretty bad story. So I started off my YouTube and I did these kind of parody anime videos where I would prank call places as an anime character. Let's not get into that. Whole host of weird. So I used to do these. I would pretend to be this character, and I would call, and then after a while of doing these videos, I kind of realized I was like, oh, it'd be kind of fun if I could bring in more people who could voice some of the other characters that I can't voice to kind of be a part of these videos. This was a different time. It was 2015, so I don't think you'd see a lot of this nowadays. And so I was working with this guy, and he was just always super unreliable. We'd schedule times, wouldn't show up, would not reply for a week or two, would then turn around and kind of ask for money for being in a YouTube video, even though they were making their own YouTube videos. And it was just a whole weird situation. And they were just constantly unreliable, so much to the point where I was like, I never want to be this to someone else. That person also went on to do some horrible stuff and get arrested for aggravated child molestation. Yeah. So that's all. So that kind of scarred me a lot. I was like, I just don't even remotely want to be this kind of person in any capacity. But I was always a reliable person before that. But I think when I got into YouTube, I realized from working with that creator and a bunch of other creators at the time and a few other people in the same kind of industry, I was just so tired of working with people who just would say one thing and never deliver on it.
Yeah, sounds like an absolute mess.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was terrible. It was a whole ordeal. At the time as well, it was kind of bad really because I wasn't making a lot of money from YouTube. I was making like a comfortable amount to pay my rent and kind of still have a nice life. But when that all happened, I just removed all the videos with that person. So then I lost like a third of my entire YouTube backlog at the time. So that was kind of like a really tough hit to take. But I don't know. I just thought it was kind of gross. So I didn't want to be a part of it.
And do you mind if I ask a little bit about your upbringing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
My parents are super chill. They were super great. I was very fortunate.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in, do you know Wales in the UK?
Vaguely. I mean, I know there's a place called Wales.
It's one of the countries in the United Kingdom, 3 million population, and I went to a Welsh-speaking school, so I would always have to speak Welsh, and if we didn't speak Welsh, we'd get detention or some other kind of punishment. So I would always, and I did all of my schooling and exams up until the age of 18 as I went to university. It was all in Welsh, which I at the time I really didn't like because I felt that I was just dumber because I didn't understand this language as well as I understood English. Although I was speaking it every single day, and I've known both languages as long as I can remember, and they're very different languages. But I just always found that I liked using English more. So that was like a whole thing. I'm just going into too much detail now.
What's too much detail about it?
I guess I'm just explaining the entire intricacies now of Welsh education.
Yeah. Okay. So you had like a Welsh medium school. Is that?
Yeah. And, so everyone speaks Welsh all the time.
And what did you hate about that?
I just hated that it felt that I was being restricted for no reason. At the time, I felt that I could learn more and learn faster in English. For example, we'd learn topics and stuff, and then if I wanted to learn more about it, I would have to try and figure out what it all was in English, and then research it in English because there was no Welsh internet at the time.
Is there Welsh
so
internet now?
there is. It's Google, but it's GWGL. It's Welsh Google, but it's terrible. Like you just don't get anything of value because it's a language that's only spoken by 16% of the population. So it's a very, very it's not dying because it's growing in number, but yeah, it's kind of a not so widely spoken. So it's a bit harder to find stuff about it. And I felt that I was doing worse in school because I just didn't understand the words as well as I understood them in English, and that was very frustrating. But that was really the only like frustrating part of school. The generic yada 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 got bullied a little bit, but it's fine.
And so it sounds like you were sort of being forced to learn in a language that it sounds like you're playing on hard mode. Like you just wanted to learn this stuff, and people are like, learn it in this language.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when I'd go home, my dad can't speak Welsh, so we always spoke English at home. So it was always kind of a weird thing, really, where for this set hours of the day, I would learn everything in this language, and then my normal life outside of it was just all in English. And so it was really hard sometimes translating. And I remember distinctly when I went to I did my engineering degree in English, and I was in the class and they were talking about some like really basic concepts. But at the time, I never learned the English words for them, and I remember feeling like, oh my god, this is going to be a lot harder than I realized because now I have to learn all the English words for all the concepts I understood in another language. And that was kind of an interesting moment. But it was looking back on it, I'm very happy that I learned everything in Welsh and I went to a Welsh speaking school because I think something I couldn't appreciate when I was younger is that all the culture is tied to the language, and being able to speak the language allows you to be more in touch with the culture. And I'm very proud of that now, but at the time I absolutely hated it.
How did you cope with that?
Man, I would spend all my time online and speaking to Americans as much as possible, speaking to other people in English. I would just go online and I would spend all my time talking online. Absolutely, if my kid was doing what I was doing, I would not let them go online.
Why not?
I was just talking to like 30-year-old men from like America when I was like 15, and I just thought, oh yeah, this is cool. I'm so cool. And I'm like, no, this guy's so creepy. What are you doing, Connor?
I mean, were they creepy though? I mean,
no, never.
Yeah.
And even if they did, I was a little shit as a kid. There was no way I was going to fall for anything anyone tried to pull on me. I was a little nuisance as a kid.
I think 30-year-old men on the internet get a bad rap, to be honest. I think most of us are like pretty decent human beings. Like I remember.
I agree.
I remember like I was playing. Do you play games?
Of course, yeah, I love games.
What do you play?
Right now, I've been playing a lot of chess.
Okay. Oh shit, one of these gamers.
Well, I tell you recently, because I was in a chess tournament recently, and I got kind of hooked back into it. But I used to be very addicted to League of Legends, and that was something that I had to. I was very fortunate because I think it was safe to say that I was addicted to that game for sure. I mean, I've been addicted to gaming pretty much my entire life, and I feel like only recently have I kind of had a more of a healthy grasp on gaming. But definitely in my entire childhood and my early adult, I was absolutely addicted. And League was, oh my god, it was terrible. I feel like a recovered addict that I don't play League anymore.
Yeah. So
mainly because I moved to Japan and the servers were so goddamn bad, and you were just playing against Smurfs that it was no fun anymore. So I just stopped.
Nice. Good.
That was great.
It sounds like Japan has given you so many things.
It's helped a lot. And now I play a little bit of TFT. If you don't know what that is, if you don't, good. Don't play it.
And do you speak any Japanese, by the way?
Yeah, I speak conversational Japanese.
Okay. So
enough to have a fun, broken conversation. But I haven't gone beyond that, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. So. Can I think for a second?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go ahead. I love it when you do this in the videos.
What do you love about it?
It's just so cool. It's to be like, let's halt, let's think. It's such a commanding presence. I love it. I'll let you go. I'll let you think.
Thank you. Okay. So like Connor, you're pretty happy, right?
Yeah, I'd say I'm the happiest I'm now than I've ever been, I think.
Okay. So like out of everything that we've talked about, is there something in particular is there somewhere in particular that you want to take this conversation?
I don't know. I don't. I think that's the issue I have, and I think going back to the term you said earlier about being able to explain the internal feelings, I just don't even know. I know how I feel, and sometimes I can normally figure out why I feel that way, but there's equally times where I feel something, and I know that I feel that way, and I can't figure out why, or I'm ignoring why for whatever reason.
And would you like that to change?
Yeah, I'd love to have more. I feel like I would love to have more like command over how I'm feeling and being able to understand it and better kind of interpret that and taking, and more importantly, taking steps to improve it, which is something that I often will realize the issue I could have, and sometimes I'll be like, well, it's not really a problem, so I'll just deal with it.
Okay. And what is, if you had more command over this, which we can absolutely do, what would be the effect that you're looking for? How are you imagining that your life would change?
That's a great question. I don't know. I guess there was no objective. I feel that sometimes I just want to, I just want to keep improving as a person in whatever capacity, without purpose, but just to improve, to be, I guess, better. And I guess I also really, really, really want to be someone who's like enriching my friends, the people I care about. I want to make sure that if they're around me or spending time with me, that they get something out of it, or it kind of, yeah, it's like I don't know.
Why?
I guess because I have some friends who do it for me, and I really, really appreciate those friends a lot. I feel like are just such great people and add nothing but like positive energy and vibes to my life. I'd love to be able to be that person for people as well. And maybe I do, but maybe I just don't appreciate it, or maybe I don't, and I'm an idiot for thinking I do. You know, I just want to be able to be a positive influence.
Okay. And I know you kind of answered this, but I'll just ask once again.
Sure.
What makes you want to be a positive influence?
I guess I don't. I guess I don't know the exact answer to that. I guess okay. Maybe there's something deep down I don't understand.
Yeah, no, we're gonna we're gonna learn a couple things today. Okay. I have no idea how much of this is relevant to you, but I think I've got kind of something going here. So. Yeah. Okay, can I have another second to think?
Absolutely, absolutely, please.
Okay. So when you're reliable, right, and people can count on you, you said that's a win-win.
Yeah, I love that. I'll be honest. I love being relied on. I don't know why.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
I honestly don't know. I think, I definitely feel like, especially with like towards my parents and stuff like that, they've always helped me out so much, and I just want to be able to be that for. Sorry, I don't know why I'm getting emotional now. Yeah, they've been such a positive influence in my life. I'd love to do the same to them. Sorry. Sorry.
Why are you apologizing?
I hate crying on camera. I hate doing it.
Do you like crying off camera?
I actually really like it off camera, yeah.
What makes it hard to cry on camera?
I don't know. I don't, because I think I've watched too many YouTubers that have cried so much on camera. Like, I hate to meme it up, but I know that it's the meme of like Markiplier crying on camera, and it's just such a meme that to me it feels so disingenuous, or at least it can be seen as disingenuous. Even I know it isn't for me, but I know sometimes it can be.
So I'm noticing, like, I don't know if you kind of noticed this, but like you think a lot about other people.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
What's up with that?
Is that not normal? Is that people not think about other people?
Do you wish it was different?
I don't think I do. No.
Why not?
I don't know. I feel that, at least in my mind, I don't. I think about other people, but I never do it at the cost of myself. At least I don't think I do. But maybe it's hard to determine that what cost is. But I feel that I give as much as I can without spreading myself thin, and I try to be as reliable as I can without committing to too much and burning myself out. At least I try to. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know why.
Yeah, so I think there's something here. So first of all, like, you're doing good, okay? So I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill. I'm not trying to say, oh my God, Connor, you're so messed up and broken on the inside. So please don't take it that way. I think you are a prime example of a man. So you're like, or just a human even, right? So you're like a dude who has like forged his own destiny in the world, and you are like reliable, and you are, you're like a good dude, and you give time for yourself, and you're not like one of these people who's like a toxic dude who there's no toxicity, right? You're toxicity free.
Yeah, try to be.
Try to be. And then
I play League of Legends, so I can't say I'm
fair enough, but you're in recovery now, right?
Yeah, I'm in recovery.
Right. So but I think what I'm kind of noticing is that I do think that there's some stuff here that's a little bit unusual. Not unusual, is actually quite normal, but a couple things that we could maybe optimize a little bit. So first thing is I kind of get the sense that you want to enrich the lives of others, because that's like the opposite of like being an asshole, right? Like you want people to you want to be like a good human, not a bad human. And you've seen both, and you've been inspired by some, and you get kind of emotional, and then whatever. So the other thing is that when we go back to being reliable for a second, you kind of say it's a win-win, because it benefits you and it benefits them.
Yeah.
Right. But I think it also it costs you something. Right. So there's like a win-win, but there's a part of you that loses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I can definitely feel that sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is going on there? Can you describe that at all, or share what your experience of that is like?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can agree to do stuff that maybe is just an inconvenience to your schedule or what you're currently doing, or maybe you have to push other things around. And I guess is it debatable if you're being reliable, if you're pushing someone else to another, or renegotiating a time with someone else. And so I think, I mean, I'm definitely guilty of sometimes, I guess I do sometimes give, I'll wake up at 3 a.m. to do something if I'm passionate about it, but I also want to be reliable and show up to something when I'll be absolutely tired, but I just want to be a part of something, or I want to be reliable for that kind of thing. So I'm definitely guilty of ruining my sleep schedule to be reliable sometimes.
But what I mean is kind of like I don't know if this kind of makes sense, but you have to have
an emotional kind of feeling.
Well, it's like you have to have a good enough excuse to not be reliable.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true.
Which, if you stop and think about it, means that there's a part of you that just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah.
And what about that dude? What about that Connor?
I don't know, because I don't. When people, if they just tell me a reason, they're like, "Oh, sorry, I can't hang out tomorrow. I got this going on." I rarely do I ever get upset about it or care that much about it. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So I don't know why I don't then give myself that benefit of the doubt that I give other people when they do it. I don't know why I don't do that.
Yeah.
So I genuinely don't know.
I'll tell you why. So I think there's one thing you got to work on. So this is also common for men.
Yeah.
So when dudes feel emotions, if I feel ashamed of myself for, let's say, being overweight.
Yeah.
What's funny?
No, sorry. I just it's such a bizarre. I've never spoken about this stuff before, so it's just all new to me. Sorry.
Okay, cool. No, that's fine. It's just usually when people laugh like that, there's sometimes there's an emotion. Are you feeling something right now?
No. It's fine. It's fine.
So if I feel ashamed of myself because, let's say, I'm overweight, how can I deal with that shame?
Okay. This feels like a trick question.
It's a trick question.
Well, obviously, I think the low-hanging fruit should be like, oh, just lose weight and feel better,
Yeah, right. How is that a trick question? What's the trick there?
Well, I feel like the reason why you feel unhappy of being overweight is not, it's not so straightforward as always just being just lose weight or something like that. There's always a lot more to it.
No, I mean, so that's the problem, is that there isn't more to it.
Oh, okay.
Right. So this was kind of weird. Like, when you feel guilty for letting someone down, what do you do to deal with the guilt?
I don't know. I just deal with it. I guess I just carry on. Maybe I guess I.
Well,
yeah.
Even more so, what do you do? So, like, this is the wild thing, is that you don't even let yourself feel the guilt because you act in a way so that you do not have to feel guilty.
I do that. Yes. I do.
So,
do
like,
that.
think about that for a second, okay?
Yeah.
What does that mean for your life if you are taking actions to avoid guilt?
I guess I've always associated guilt as being having no positive effects on one's life. So I've always considered avoiding guilt as kind of avoiding doing wrong.
Yeah. So a couple of things really interesting about that. First of all, if guilt has no positive effect, why do you think human beings feel guilt?
That's true. Guilt is a good kind of moral kind of fixing tool, I suppose.
Serves a function, right? In modern society, we think about some emotions as negative emotions.
Yeah.
Is not serving a function. Whereas what we actually know is that guilt and shame are the strongest inducers of behavioral change. That's why they feel so bad. So our brain is like, if we can make us feel bad, we don't want to repeat the behavior. If we can make us feel good, we do want to repeat the behavior. This is how people get addicted to League of Legends, because it's like, oh yeah, right? So what I'm kind of pointing out, though, is that if you sort of think about it, like, you live your life in some ways in the avoidance of guilt.
Yeah, I think I'm guilty of doing that.
Yeah, right? And then, like, the interesting, but that's kind of weird, because that sort of means, like, you're not in control of your life.
I guess so. Damn. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way.
Help me understand what makes sense to you, or it doesn't have to make sense. You're allowed to disagree. Just like, what do you think about that?
I guess I had never even remotely considered that possibility, which I guess I don't know what that says about my ability to kind of judge myself, but
it means you're a normal human, by the way.
Okay. Okay, that's good then. I'm glad it got that good. Yeah, I mean, I would be inclined to agree with you. I think that I do have a tendency to do everything in my power to avoid feeling guilt or guilty in any way. And I don't know why.
It's not just well, yeah, that's because we'll get to why in a second, okay?
Yeah.
And it's not just guilt, right?
Yeah.
So people have had a very positive impact in your life.
Yeah.
And how does that make you feel?
I mean, I guess I just feel grateful mostly about it, but also would love to be able to have that impact on other people as well. I don't know why.
Yeah. So I'll toss out another word. What about indebted?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is definitely something I do think about a lot, is that I never want to feel that I owe more to other people.
Yeah. So, Connor, this is big, man. So if you never want to feel a particular way, what does that mean about your life? What do you have to do to avoid feeling indebted?
I have to just give a lot more of myself than I guess I can.
Absolutely. And bro, if someone gives you a lot, like, what does that mean? That means you got to give more.
Yeah. Which I guess is why it comes from this all loops back to the whole social thing of kind of not wanting to maybe connect with some people, because I feel like, oh God, I'm going to have to, there's definitely this indebted feeling I'm going to feel.
Yeah, like, oh my God, this person is so nice and they want to be my friend. Yeah. And if they want to be my friend, I should want to be their friend. And even if I don't want to be their friend, I'm not going to let myself not want to be their friend. And if I can come up, there's a part of me that doesn't want to be their friend. I'm just tired. I want to go home and watch some anime. But unless I can come up with a good enough reason to disappoint them, that's the only way you get what you want. Is if you can come up with a, right? And like
Yeah.
this is kind of weird because what this means. How are we doing so far? Is this okay? You doing okay?
Yeah, this is fine.
Okay,
This
okay,
is great.
okay.
I'm learning more about myself than I.
So this is the
before.
weird thing, though. Like, I want you to really think about this, that the way you manage your emotions is through actions. You shape your
Absolutely,
environment
yeah.
to prevent yourself or create particular feelings.
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that.
Which means what's in control of your life?
I guess I'm not in control of my life. I guess I'm at the whim of that feeling of not wanting guilt is basically controlling what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? So now this is the weird thing. And this is what we see. It's like that's the ping pong ball. It's like you're going to feel guilty in one way if you do something. You're going to feel guilty. And then you're like, how do I avoid this? Why does everything have to be a lose-lose situation when it comes to socialization?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, I know it sounds kind of weird, but let's teach you a different way. Is it possible for you to have emotions and not need to fix them? And it's not just the negative emotions that you fix. You can't sit with gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just say like you gotta do it back, right?
Yeah.
It's like, Tag, you're it.
True.
No, you're it.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you just say, hey, mom and dad, like, thank you so much? Like, what would it feel like if you just, I mean, have you ever told your parents how grateful you are? And like,
Yeah, I've told them a bunch. Yeah.
And is that enough?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think they're just happy to see how I'm doing. You know, they don't need anything. They just want to see that I'm doing okay.
Yeah, and how are you with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say that is like, obviously, as like a son, you wanna like do as much as you can for your parents, right? Especially if they've done a lot for you. And I guess I'm constantly trying to feel like, how can I do more there? You know?
Right, because if you do more, then what will change emotionally?
I guess I'll the debt, the debt. Yeah, I guess that's fair. Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
It's
I think I'm just like subconsciously paying off like the debt of being a kid.
Yeah.
Didn't think about that. It's so strange. Wow. Oh, damn. I didn't think about that.
How do you
That's
feel
so crazy.
Yeah. What's
It's
happening?
kind of overwhelming in a way to think about it like that, but it's kind of, I mean, it's awesome as well. It's kind of liberating in a way to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I want to be a good son. But I think there's the indebtedness and also, but you know, I just love them so much. So I just want to help them that way too.
Of course. Yeah. Are you a good son?
I think so. I would say I am. I'd say I am. I am a good son.
Yeah, you're damn right you're a good son. So then why do you need to try so hard?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah.
So you see what I mean? So I think that, like, so this is the thing, Connor. This is what we don't understand, is that you are not monolithic. There's like different things inside you. There's a part of you that knows that you've made your parents proud. There's a part of you that knows you're a good son. And yet, even though you know you're a good son, it's not enough. You want to be like a better son.
Yeah. Yeah. I just always feel like I can do better in everything. So I think that's like a blessing and a curse at times.
Yeah.
Because I can never let myself just be like, oh yeah, I'm pretty good at this. I'm like, nope, I can always get better. Which I think is a good mentality to have on a lot of things, but also I wish I would just cut myself a break. But I don't know how to do that.
Yeah. And why do you think that is? And you're able to think about it for a second and see if we can kind of connect the dots. Why can't you cut yourself a break?
I don't know.
Yeah, so
I have this massive aversion to feeling of laziness for whatever reason.
How long have you had that massive aversion to laziness?
Probably. I feel like I've had it a little bit, but it was kind of when I moved to Japan is where it really kicked in, and I felt like it really started to. For perspective, you know, when I used to work on my videos and just anything in life, I would just work on stuff, or I would do just enough of everything. If I didn't like it for school, I would do just enough to be able to get good grades, and where I felt was like a reasonable amount of input for the output that I wanted, and I would do no more. And I was kind of the same with like when I started doing YouTube initially as well. I was very passionate about it, but there was still the kind of this limit that I would get to where I'd be like, okay, I can only put this much work in it, and then I would kind of be like, all right, I'm done. And I'd play video games for 8 hours. But then I moved to Japan, and I don't know what happened. Maybe it's just being in a different culture. I was finally a part of I joined an agency, and so there was kind of a bit more accountability on things, which I never had before. And even when I had jobs prior to this that required accountability, those jobs I still never felt like I would never do more than the bare minimum ever. But then something happened when I moved to Japan, and suddenly now I'm kind of like, I'm at this point in my life where pretty much like when I'm doing like full work days, because I try my best to leave one day a week where I don't do anything, and I don't plan anything, and I just try to have some openness to it, because I was basically scheduling, and I still do this mostly on work days. I will schedule things like every single like hour. I will fill out like every hour of the day, and this is like I'm talking. This is like till wake up till sleep. Be it if that's like that includes like going to the gym or something as well. But I will normally try to schedule something every single hour of every day.
What do you think about that?
I don't know. In one sense, I'm kind of. It's weird because I often hear about this burnout, and a lot of people talk about burnout at all, but I don't feel that at all. I don't know if that's. Maybe I'm lying to myself or something, but
no, I don't think you are.
I really enjoy my current way of living and the way I handle it, where, you know, even in terms of when I said I was scheduling every hour, like, but that wouldn't include like, hey, if my friend wants to hang out, up until that point where I go and hang out with them, I will literally work nonstop until that point, or work on stuff, be it streaming or meetings or whatever it is. And I don't know why that is, but I do like it. I think. Yeah. I think I like it. I feel pretty proud about it.
Yeah, good. So what's the consequence of laziness?
I just hate that feeling so much when I sit there for 1 hour and I don't have anything planned, or I don't like I feel like I'm losing an hour, even though I know I'm not, and I know that, say, just going on a walk to the park.
So when you have a feeling of losing an hour, what do you do to make that feeling go away?
Normally it's some form of procrastination in my mind that will kind of fill that hour, or I'll try and work on stuff. But it's if I have that hour, I'll probably play a game until that feeling's gone.
I know. No, I don't think I think what you do is you schedule your full days so that you never have to feel that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you see what we're doing here is that, like, I'm going to take actions, and the actions will create the feelings. And if I have a feeling, the feeling needs to be addressed through actions. Someone does something nice to me, gives me $1, I need to give them $2.
Yeah, I guess so. Right? Yeah.
And oh my God, I'm wasting these precious hours. I feel like a waste. Okay, we're going to schedule from dawn till dusk.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is, once again, I think we're seeing a pattern of, and this isn't necessarily bad. I think you've learned how to do this adaptively, and you're resilient and all this good stuff. So it's not like you're burning out or anything, because you also sort of recognize that a little bit too much is going to be too much. So that's really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're working on other stuff here. So let me ask you this. How did you feel about yourself when you were doing the bare minimum?
I don't think at that time I recognized it as such. I think at the time I just recognized that I was doing the stuff I needed to do.
Okay.
And then it went from being a need to do things as opposed to how much can I do, or you know, how much stuff can I accomplish, or can I kind of achieve. And I don't know what would cause that flip in me, or what kind of gave me that gradual change. But it did happen when I moved to Japan. I don't really know why. I'm sure there's probably some emotional reason.
So I'm hearing that you feel quite like fulfilled and accomplished and proud of yourself when you pack your days.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Right? So you're like a productive human being. Good for you.
Yeah, I like to feel like I'm productive, yeah.
And so part of what I'm kind of curious about is sometimes people have almost addiction to productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because
And optimization, 100%.
Because they have learned the price of not doing that. And so even then the addiction becomes almost an avoidance of some past thing.
Yeah.
But I'm not hearing that you're trying to avoid anything.
I wonder if there's something I'm trying to avoid.
Like, was there ever like a moment in your life, kind of speaking of anime, right, where like as a protagonist, you were like, never again, I'm going to change and I'm going to attain my second level, my second tier of power level or whatever, and I'm going to become Connor 2.0. And it may not be a huge moment. It may be like a small moment where you know, because I don't think it started in Japan. I think it grew in Japan. You're right. But it sounds like you had some aversion to laziness before that. Like this was the chance for you to no longer be who you were.
Yeah. I think there was towards my, because I lived in London for 2 years before I moved to Japan. And I think towards the end of that period, I really felt kind of, there was no big event or anything, but I just started feeling unhappy with a lot of my life circumstance at the time. I was overweight at the time. I was overweight, and I was at like a physical shape that I wasn't happy with because I was always very active, and I was always just very, very sporty growing up, and I felt like I'd kind of let that part of my life go, going into being like age like 22, 23, when obviously your metabolism starts to slow down. You start to realize all that pizza and the beer catches up to you. And I think I was also just unhappy with where I was creatively at the time as well. And I think it was kind of an accumulation of things that kind of, I was just unhappy with a lot of things. And then I started really trying to get back into shape. And then around the same time is when I got this offer to move to Japan. And then I think that's all around this time is where I think that I just completely changed the type of content I was making. I started changing how I was eating. I started changing how much I was exercising. And there's no definitive. That mug is so good.
What? Oh,
the #1 dad mug. Comically large.
My kids got it for me.
No, that's the sweetest thing ever. I think there was just a general unhappiness with a bunch of different things, and I think as I started, I think definitely the catalyst was when I started working out more and losing weight and eating healthier, is when I really started to. I think I just felt better in general, and then that led to a bunch of other changes that just kind of cascaded, I felt.
Makes a lot of sense, man. Sounds like you really reinvented yourself. You decided that you wanted your life to be a different thing, and you moved towards it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I looking back now, I didn't appreciate this when I was in school or when I was in university, but I think I at the time I was just miserable. Like I couldn't recognize that at the time. And I don't know why that was, but this is probably where the gaming kind of came in, where it was me sinking 12 hours a day into gaming.
What were you miserable about? What made you
I don't know, honestly, which is kind of what, when I was growing up after the fact, it was the one big thing that I was really confused about, is that I don't understand why I was sad or why I was kind of upset at my general life when I felt that everything was going a direction. Maybe not the direction I wanted, but it was the standard direction that I think most people would be happy with. But I also didn't know what direction I wanted either. So I think it's just so tough to figure this stuff out when you're a kid.
Absolutely.
You know, I got good grades. I was okay in school. I never caused much trouble. And then I, did the engineering. And obviously everyone's like, oh, engineering, that's great. Yeah, your life will be fine. And you're just kind of like, okay, I guess I'll just keep doing it because everyone else tells me around me that's a good idea. But all I wanted to do was play games at the time.
Yeah. So let me ask you one other thing, Connor. What about romance? Can I ask you some questions about that?
Yeah. I tend to keep a lot of that stuff private online, but we can delve into like the surface level stuff if you want.
We can also not talk about it. So let me just share with you what I'm curious about, and then you let me know if it's good or not.
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great.
So the theme that we're running with is that you have. Yeah, so maybe we should. I detect hesitation from you, and now I'm wondering about what's going on internally and whether you would feel okay saying no, or whether that would create guilt and therefore you can't say no.
Well, okay. I feel at this point that if you ask a question that I'm uncomfortable with, I feel comfortable saying I don't want to answer.
So the only reason I bring it up is just in relation to our general theme, which is, okay, you used to be sad, but you weren't sure why.
Yeah.
And now, even like what I'm getting a lot of, the most consistent theme is that everything's kind of going okay, but I'm not quite sure why. Right? So there's like an internal, like, I feel kind of guilty about this, but it's okay because like when I force myself to do it, I end up forming relationships, and forming relationships is good, just like studying engineering. So we're going to do it because it's good for Connor and it's the right thing to do. And we don't want to disappoint people, and we want to be reliable, and we want to be this thing. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only reason I'm curious about romantic relationships at all, and we don't have to talk about it, is just whether this thing enters into the romantic realm or not.
Yeah, it definitely does. For me, I mean, I was I guess I had a pretty bad relationship like 4 or 5 years ago. That at the time I felt like I knew it was bad, but I just wasn't able to. For some reason, and I think maybe this is the guilt aspect of me, I just wasn't able to bring myself to get out of it. And ultimately, I'm very grateful that they ended up breaking up with me, because I don't think I would have done it. And I don't know why. And it was a really awful relationship for me. I wouldn't say it's like, I wouldn't say it was like mentally abusive at all, but there was definitely some things that were like pretty fucked up. And I think that I had a really tough time knowing how to handle that. Because you just don't get a lesson on that growing up. Yep.
So I'm gonna try to step in, okay, for a second, and I'm gonna tell you about that relationship. We're not even gonna ask you about it. So, and I could be completely wrong because I have no fucking idea, right?
Yeah.
So let's just talk about generically people who are maybe a little bit like you, who may wind up in relationships like this. Not really frankly abusive, because if it was frankly abusive, you would have left.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you say, hey, this is objectively bad.
Yeah.
Therefore, I'm going to leave. But sometimes when we live our life, so let me think about how to say this. When we live our life in a way that actions are the way that we fix emotions, we can end up ping-ponging back and forth within a relationship. So if I break up with them, then that will evoke guilt, and I didn't do my part, or I did some of my part, right? But like, I could have done more. This is me giving up, and I don't want to be someone who's a giver-upper. And so then you're like, okay, I'm not going to break up. But then in the relationship, certain things happen that make you feel bad.
Yeah.
And then maybe you feel guilty for feeling bad because it's not their fault, and you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, and maybe you give them the benefit of the doubt. So then you're like, okay, I want to stay in this relationship, but it hurts to stay in the relationship. And maybe even like college, you're a little bit, like you're a little bit sad, even though you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And so this relationship on paper seems to be good in a lot of ways, and you should be happy in this relationship. So you kind of stay in it. Yeah. Because you're not supposed to throw away things that should be good for you, right?
No, you shouldn't. Well, you think so?
I'm trying to keep you from sharing. So how does that sit with it? Or are we completely off base here?
Yeah. I mean, at the time, a lot of my friends didn't like it that much, and it was just I don't know. Like looking back, I'm like, man, I'm such an idiot. Like I just didn't do anything, and I don't understand why. But I remember having these feelings of, I knew it wasn't good, but the thought of having to, I suppose deal with that guilt of having to. I guess also accept that it just wasn't working is also, a tough thing to accept sometimes, and something that I think has always been tough.
Yeah, and what makes it hard to accept that things aren't working?
I don't know. I guess in my head, it's even though I know that my brain is doing some kind of weird ass gymnastics to try and justify that I'm at fault or something like that, but I know it's not that. I'm conscious enough to be aware of that, but yet I can't bring myself to separate that feeling from it.
Which feeling?
The feeling of that, like I'm at fault.
Yes.
Or that I haven't done my part.
Yeah. Right. And that's so when you feel irrationally that you haven't done your part, what do you end up doing in the relationship?
Normally I would just overcompensate and do too much, which
Absolutely.
was the problem.
What you end up doing is more.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? Because if you can do more, what does it do to the feeling in here?
It feels like I can make that feeling go away.
Absolutely. I can fix it. This relationship is not working. And
I can fix it. That's the meme.
Right?
I was definitely guilty of that. I was definitely guilty of the I can fix a meme.
Right? I don't know what the meme is, but I think, I mean, if there's a meme,
okay.
you know.
It's the meme is where dudes will often, they'll get in a relationship they know is absolutely terrible and bad idea because they think that, oh, I can fix this person who is going through a bunch of trouble or going through a bunch of mental problems. And so the meme online is, oh, she's so attractive, yada, 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 I can fix her. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the story of your life, dude. Like, you can fix it if it's not okay, right? If someone does something nice for you, you can fix it by doing more for them.
Yeah, and I think there's that kind of that input where I feel that I think this mindset I've had has had some success at points where I'm like, it must work for everything, and obviously it's just not how life works. And so I kind of just expect, I don't know.
No, I mean, I think that's how life works. That's how you get into the situation, right? Because look, when you fix all the problems, when you are twice as reliable and other people are half as reliable, when you pack all of your days, like, it's working out for you, right? You're not overweight. You're not in London. You're not in an empty career that you don't care about. Like, things are working pretty well for you, and all you have to sacrifice is yourself.
Yeah. I guess so.
Right? All you have
It's
to
just
do
myself.
is be controlled by your emotions, which, and the most common thing that you said today, by the way, is like, I don't know why. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Which is weird because I feel that, like, I'm pretty self-aware in a lot of ways, but I guess it doesn't matter how self-aware you are if you're still being controlled by your emotions. You're still letting them control me, I suppose.
Yeah. So how does it feel to be so self-aware and still be controlled by your emotions?
It sucks. Sometimes it sucks because I know that there's a thing that I should be doing or a better way to handle a situation, and I just don't for whatever reason.
Yeah. So that's a problem, but I don't think it's the problem that you think it is. I think that what you want to do in that situation is figure out what you should be doing different.
Yes.
Right? So that you can do something different. So that you can stop feeling that way.
Yes. I'm guilty. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You're right.
Man, I moved in my fucking thing. Can you count to 10 for me? Sorry, I was...
1, 2, 3, 4,
Okay,
5,
perfect.
6, 7, 8, 9,
So
10.
Connor, this is what we're going to do. We're going to teach you a different way.
That'd be great.
Okay? So what we're going to teach you how to do is, first of all, articulate emotions. And secondly, how to just sit with them and process them without acting.
Okay.
This is what... Because now this is the cool thing. Like, if you feel guilty, that's not something you have to fix.
Right.
So the only time... So guilt... Let's just learn something, okay? So guilt is information. Emotions are information. Sometimes they're motivational. Sometimes they're drives. But what we really want, what I want you to focus on is that emotions should be information about the situation.
Okay.
So when you feel guilty, that's some part of you telling you, hey, we could be making a mistake.
Yeah.
But when your rational mind says, you know what? This relationship is fucked. We should really leave. And then what you need to be able to do is integrate that emotion that you have with your logical thinking and then come up with like one thing that you want to do. Right now, what I think is going on is that you're like binary. Like sometimes the logic is working. And then when the emotion takes over, it's like, well, we're not going to listen to the logic today. And then you ping pong.
Yeah.
Right? So what we want is integration. And the cool thing is that if you can learn how to process emotions, because remember, the goal of an emotion is that it needs to be addressed. So even something like gratitude, like you're going to fix gratitude, right? I'm going to stop feeling gratitude by no longer feeling indebted. So I'm going to do something for you, and then I'm going to feel proud of myself, and now I no longer feel debt. So this is the core problem, is what you need to do is just process the emotion without action. And if you can process the emotion, what will happen is you will be more in control of your life.
Okay.
Questions?
Oh, how do I not do action?
Right. So like that's going to be hard for you because that's all you know how to do. right? So that's why we got to teach you something else.
Okay,
So
okay.
I think the first thing to do is just to try your best to identify the emotion and why you're feeling that way.
Okay.
So like, I'm feeling guilty. I'm feeling guilty because XYZ. So that's going to be step number one. So we've even done a good job here, and I'm going to give you a couple of like tips. So gratitude and indebtedness are going to come hand in hand. And what I want you to try is to lean into the gratitude instead of the indebtedness. So if you express or articulate appreciation, so there's this weird circuit in our brain. Freud actually made this discovery that we can use language as a substitute for action. So it's really bizarre, but sometimes even talking about something essentially scratches the same itch as doing something, which is why there are two kinds of people in life. There are talkers and doers. And some people go on talking about everything I'm going to do, and then they tank their own internal motivational drive because somewhere in the brain, for some weird reason, talking about something kind of does the same thing, it has the same function as doing it.
Yeah, I've recognized that in the past.
How so?
But for some reason, it's like, I guess one thing that I've come to appreciate growing older is that it's like when a friend comes to you and they have a problem. And I used to be that person who would sit down and someone tells me a problem. I'm like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do to fix it. Whereas now, as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate, no, they don't want me to, a lot of the time they don't want me to fix it. They just want me to listen and validate how they feel. And that can be as fulfilling as sometimes fixing the problem for people, you know.
Right. So and this is the cool thing. Beautiful example, right? Because when they feel better about it, I know it's kind of weird. Even though technically the problem still exists, it no longer feels like a problem. It's just something that needs to be taken care of. And once they sort of talk through it, then you can sort of execute on it without any of the emotional turmoil. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
We're going to help you do that. So
nice.
If you feel grateful to someone, and I'm sure you say grateful things, right? You say thank you, right?
Yeah, of course. I always try to say thank you.
Yeah. And so I want you to try to just express appreciation as a substitute for fixing the indebtedness. So recognize within yourself that like, okay, like I'm starting to feel indebted. Now that we know what we're looking for, you may be able to find it more easily. When you feel grateful, when you feel like you need to do something nice for someone, okay? And you can still do nice things. I'm not saying don't do nice things, but don't do them unconsciously. Don't be like driven, like, oh my God, like I got to do something nice for them. Like otherwise, like I can't keep feeling this way. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You feel that way?
That doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So like that's weird, right? So we got to recognize that and just express your appreciation verbally. Notice that feeling and then try to speak to them. That's number one.
Okay.
Second thing is, in terms of this whole like being, turning people down. Yeah. So like that too, like what do you think you feel when you turn people down for social things?
I think there's kind of there's some slight bit of regret there, but it's mainly, I guess, guilt. Guilt is the main thing.
And what do you feel guilty about?
Not meeting expectations, I think, a lot of the time.
Okay.
Or not being available.
Okay. And why do you want to meet expectations?
That is a fantastic question. I don't know. I don't know where this is stemmed from in my my entire life, but I've always wanted to meet expectations, or surpass them, or whatever that is. I just always want to be reliable in that sense, and I don't know why.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. Okay. When you meet expectations or you exceed expectations, how do you feel?
Sometimes I feel good. Sometimes I feel like, okay, I did the thing that I was gonna do. But yeah, I feel good about it most of the time.
Now, here's a weird question. When did you start feeling good about yourself in the absence of actions?
as in just purely on a like an emotional
Yeah,
feeling.
like you're okay with who you are now, right? You don't need to be something else. But when did that happen?
I think that happened maybe my second year in Japan, or maybe like towards the end of my first year in Japan.
Okay. So now
About
I'm going to
3
ask
years
you
ago.
kind of a weird question, maybe impossible to answer, okay? How old is the person that wants to meet people's expectations?
Wow, that's a very good question. I think it's like the 21-year-old me.
Tell me about the 21-year-old you.
Well, I think that I had like no limit on like my social battery, if you will. And I was just super fascinated with meeting everyone and anyone I could talk to. And I always, and I guess it sounds sad now that I'm like less social in a way, or more reserved. But yeah, I think I kind of want to, in my head, I'm like, Matt, why am I not as social as I used to be? Because I think I used to love going to anime conventions and like, I would go to like Indiana. I don't even, like, a Welsh kid going to Indiana, what is the point of that? There's such no purpose. But I just loved meeting people at the time and talking to people from different backgrounds, and just getting to kind of open my perspective of the world. And then I guess as I've gotten older, I've just felt less inclined to do that for whatever reason. But I'd feel happier, so I don't know what that means.
You feel happier with what? In which situation?
I feel happier with my current, like where my life is at or where my emotional state is at, generally.
Yeah. But was 21-year-old you happy?
I think I was happy. I think there was a few things I was kind of not happy with, but I think I was okay. Yeah. I think okay is a good word.
When did you become... Okay, so let me think about this.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I can sometimes I can tell that I'm answering these things, but I feel like I'm answering when you're answering. I'm sure this is a common problem that you run into when people are answering the questions you ask them. I'm answering the questions, but sometimes I'm like throwing an answer out there because I feel like I need to answer, but maybe that question just now I don't feel like I have a confident answer for.
Yeah, that's okay. Right.
Yeah.
So and yeah, so let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
So how does it feel to not have the right answer to the questions?
Oh, I hate it. Awful. Hate it. It's just a horrible feeling.
And so what do you do when you start to feel that way? How do you fix it?
I'm just looking in the barrel for something. I'm trying to scrape around.
Right.
Let's just get something competent.
And so what are you're trying to live up to expectations?
I didn't think about it like that. Now you say that. Yeah, you're right.
Right?
God damn it. Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's so reflexive, man.
That's weird. Why do I do that?
Right? So
but like, is it, I guess in my head, I've never once considered that it's like, it's okay for me not to give an answer. Like, I feel like that's incompetence on my part in some capacity.
So how, I know, we're going to try again. It's okay for you to, you're not screwing up. So this is the cool thing. You're doing great, right? We had a tiny little bit of breakthrough. Cliffhanger. Yeah. We got to pause like 2 minutes ago,
sure.
And then we can pick up next week because we just did. Okay. But when I ask you a question that's hard for you to answer, how old do you feel? This kid who's rifling through looking for the answer. It's a kid. It's not a grown up.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Right. So how old do you feel in that moment? Do you feel like...
which moment, sorry?
When I'm asking you a question and you're like looking... I love that imagery of like looking through the file cabinet desperately for some kind of answer.
It does feel like I'm in a situation sometimes where I feel that it's like this feeling of you've almost faked that you're there. Like somehow everyone has agreed that you are on... You're the same level of whatever that is, whether it be an emotional maturity or even like professional sense. And you're just like, man, I feel like I'm faking it. Like, and I don't know why. Like, I feel like there's just some kind of, there's just something missing. But then I'm also aware enough to realize that I think that everyone else around me probably has the same emotion at some point. Like, I'm aware that that is a normal thing to feel. And and that I shouldn't just, that's not just a me thing that I feel that way. And so when I feel that way, often, a lot of the times, I'm aware that it's just that moment, and this is not reflective of how I actually like generally think and my attitude in general. But it's just like a moment where you're like, I guess imposter syndrome is the word for it. But it's so minimal, and I feel like I'm able to identify it immediately and stop it, or not stop it, but not allow it to kind of do any kind of bearing. But I never considered imposter syndrome in like an emotional way, which I'm now realizing totally makes sense that you could feel an imposter syndrome in an emotional way.
What do you mean by imposter syndrome in an emotional way?
Like, I should be able to express myself in this given situation, but for some reason I can't. And so in my like head, I'm like, okay, I'll go to the answer that I feel like is closest, but I know it's not like 100% representative of the truth.
So Connor, you're honestly, dude, you're doing awesome. And is it okay that I tell you that? Does that, because I'm reassuring you.
It's very kind. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Kind?
Kind?
How's that kind?
To reassure me?
Yeah. Okay, never mind.
You don't have to reassure me. So.
Okay, sure. I see how it's kind. Sorry, it's just I've never heard.
So I was like, what did I do?
No. Anyway, so.
Okay.
So that's another one, right? So if I say, like, if I do something nice for you, you can't sit with it. You're like,
absolutely not. No,
you're so
not.
kind,
No.
Dr. K. Like that's why. Wait, hold on a second, because you won't let me reassure you. You just hit the ball right back. You see what I mean?
Is that not accepting the being reassuring? Saying that is that
no, but no. I mean, there's some, like, I think you kind of, like, if I try to make you feel good, what do you have to do? You got to make me feel good. You got to call me kind.
Yeah, I guess I do. I guess I do. Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna practice. You ready? You're about to get fucked, my friend.
Okay.
Can't say anything nice about me. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Connor, you are doing awesome, man. You are swimming in some hard stuff, and you're like learning about your emotions, and it's really great. Like, seriously, I know it's kind of feeling overwhelming right now, but in a couple of days, and if you work on that, like, we've just dumped you into the ocean, which is why it's overwhelming. Yeah. But you're honestly doing awesome, and I don't even think you realize how much you're growing over the course of this conversation.
Oh, thank you. This is where I instinctively want to say, that's very kind of you to say.
So what does it feel like to not say that?
It's weird.
What is that?
I don't know. I guess I've always been had this mindset that if somebody says something nice to you or does something nice to you, I should immediately just find a way to reciprocate that. Yeah,
right. So like, thank you is fine, but like, the more overt I am, maybe you're like, oh yeah, but Dr. K, like, I'm able to do this because you're so brilliant and all that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, and that's okay. I'm not saying that you should, when people are nice to you, like, that's good programming. But for the purpose of this conversation and where you are, like,
it's not supposed to be that.
Because it's so uncomfortable to sit with that emotional energy. I can see you're like, argh.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's fair. I'm very tough. It's very tough for me to kind of, when someone compliments me and I'm like in a room with them, looking at them, it's very tough for me to just sit there and kind of sit with it.
Yeah, right. So like, sitting with it, like, that's what we got to practice. So identifying the emotion and just sitting with it, because we don't want like that ping pong in your bad relationship. It's like those emotions are controlling you. They're jerking you one way and they're jerking you the other way. Very common with men, by the way. So this is like how we deal with our emotions. We are taught from a very young age, and I see this actually more often in women now too. So I think this gap is shrinking. But we're taught that, like, when we feel a certain way, we have to fix something on the outside. And so we try to create an environment that feeds us a particular kind of emotion. Yeah. The problem... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there's also a weird dichotomy where I think as a human being, you're just guilty of... sometimes you want praise from people, or you want compliments. But then the moment I get it, I'm like, oh, no, I don't. But it's like this weird cycle. I don't know why.
Yeah, right. So because how do you feel about wanting praise from other people?
I hate that. I hate that I feel that way. I hate it.
Right. So like, this is the problem. Is this kind of goes back to when you're reliable. Hey, I'm Connor. I'm going to be reliable. It's going to be win for you and win for me. Everybody wins. We get to go out.
Yeah.
I force myself to socialize. I'm going to make a new friend. That's good for Connor. And it's good for you because you want to hang out with me and I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to feel like an asshole. So I'm going to say, okay, let's hang out. The only person who loses is you.
Yeah.
Not the part of Connor that is like optimizing my life because woohoo, we leveled up, +1 friend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But like the part of you that's like, I just don't want to do this right now.
Yeah.
And it's those emotions and stuff like that, like all that stuff, like you want praise. Why do you think you want praise so much? Because there's some part of you that is like unhappy with yourself, that doesn't think you're good enough.
Yeah. I guess so. Yeah.
Right? Like it's like this kid who's going to Welsh school and the kid feels stupid. And he just wants the world to cut him a break so that he can do the best that he's supposed to do. It's not supposed to be this hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. Yeah, it sucks. It's one of those things where you feel that emotion like, damn, why do I feel this way? Like I don't get anything from it. And I hate that I have that thought. Yeah.
You hate that you have the thought that, which part do you hate? I'm confused.
I hate that sometimes I feel like I would like appreciate the praise, or I feel like I want the praise. And even though I don't think that I act on that a lot of the time. I think I'm pretty good at identify when I'm doing that and when it serves no purpose. But I still just don't like that I feel that way.
Yeah, right. So you judge yourself very harshly for you call it being vain. Right?
Yeah, being vain, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
Right? That's how you judge it. But I call it being human.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, hey, I don't know if you know this, but human beings want praise.
Yeah.
And you're human, bro.
Yeah. It's kind of frustrating because I recognize that other people around me, like whenever I work with people or I do anything with friends or anything, I'm always I've recognized that praise is so like important as a part of like when it's justified to give. And so I recognize that it's important to give it, but for some reason then when I want it, I for some reason can't accept the fact that I want praise. I don't know why.
Yeah, right? So let's dig into that for a second. Okay, so you want praise. And how do you think about yourself for wanting praise?
I think it's like weak.
Yes, right? Good, beautiful. Connor is weak. And if you think of yourself as weak, what does a weak kid need to hear to start feeling better about themselves?
I guess praise.
From other people.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a cycle.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Right? So your self-judgments, which have served you so well, are the very thing that is actually creating the problem that they're pissed off about. It's like that meme of like, the bicycle person where they stick the stick themselves in the spokes. And then that's what you're doing, man.
Me. Yeah, that's me.
Right? So it's this is the core thing. This like, I can't be indebted. You got to be so perfect. And I'm not saying, I think there's a lot of healthy part to it. And this is the weird thing is that this is like 80% of you is fine. And then there's 20% or 10% or maybe even 5%.
Yeah.
That like this coexists. And the reason it's so confusing is because they're not integrated. It's kind of like, you kind of get how your consciousness shifts between the two.
Yeah.
There are some moments where this other part of you is winning. And then like you get pissed at yourself for that part winning.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're like, man, I'm so weak. Like, why do I have to be like that? Why can't I be like this? Why can't I be productive all the time? Why can't I be confident all the time and grateful all the time? Because you're human, man. And you got to accept yourself.
Yeah.
And then now you're like, man, fuck, I can't accept myself. What's wrong with me?
No, I know I have to. It's just about going through the steps of working on that and kind of being more open to that and understanding why I feel that way more instead of just shrugging it off.
Yeah, so I think just understand that you feel that way, right? So just notice it, and then also catch the judgmental thoughts. The part of you, like, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do more, But
Yeah.
there's a big difference between you reflexively doing more and you subconsciously doing more and you automatically doing more and you sort of acknowledging your emotions and letting them have a space, recognizing that you're human, recognizing that you're flawed, recognizing that you can only work on so much stuff at the same time. And then sort of saying like, you know, I don't need to be perfect today.
Yeah.
How does that sound?
That sounds kind of nice. It sounds kind of nice not to have to hold all the expectations constantly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I guess because I've just had that feeling of, okay, if I don't be the best I could be every day, then I'm, you know, I guess I'm somehow failing in my own sense. But I guess I need to work on that as well.
Right. And so that's the tricky thing is if you're not the best every day, then you're failing yourself. And then you need to be better, which means you need to be the best every day.
Yeah.
And the thing, I know it's kind of weird, but like Connor, you're doing good, dude. You have a lot to be proud of.
I'm able to recognize that objectively that I'm doing good.
Yeah.
I just, like I said earlier, I guess there's always this nagging feeling in my brain of like, we can do better. We can do better.
So I know it's kind of paradoxical, but I would let that no longer be a nagging feeling and let it actually come full front and center.
Okay.
And just like let it fill up your mind that, wow, like in this moment, even though I've done a really good job, there's a part of me that really wants me to do more. And that's literally, bro, all you have to do. You don't even have to fix
just recognize it.
Just recognize it.
Okay.
Like that's where you are right now.
Okay.
And just be like, there's a part of me that's unsatisfied with this.
Yeah. I definitely agree. Yeah, it's very helpful actually to hear that.
and I think what I detected in you, hopefully, I mean, I don't know, is some amount of relief when you were like, that sounds good. To not...
Yeah, no, that is kind of relief to hear because I guess, like I said, I've never spoken to anyone about this stuff. Obviously, you have friends and stuff, but you know, having kind of a bit more of kind of reassurance on it is definitely helpful.
Cool. Questions?
Question. So your main advice is just don't shrug it off. Just kind of sit with it, recognize it, and kind of try and understand it more.
So I'd start by articulating what you're feeling and noticing what you're feeling.
Okay.
And then like, if you want other things, like don't push it away automatically and don't give into it automatically. Basically, don't behave automatically in relation to your emotions. And that starts with like awareness of it.
Yeah.
And you'll be...
It's always weird because I never associated, which is such a stupid thing to think, but in my mind, I was like, my actions are independent of my emotions. Like I am doing what I believe is right, and not because I feel a certain way, but because I've decided that way. But I guess that's stupid to think that my emotions don't play into that.
Yes, I mean, it's stupid.
It is. I know it is. I know it is. But I still, for some reason, I'm like, I am a machine. I will just do what I think is right.
That is what men do usually, and they're wrong. So if a human being thinks that their actions are independent of their emotions, that actually means that their emotions are the puppet master that is shaping their intellect.
Yeah.
Your emotions are actually rigging the intellectual thing. Yeah. That's what people don't realize. Like literally, if you look at your brain, you constantly have emotions. They're always active and being integrated. The only difference is when we don't think we're being controlled by our emotions is when we're actually being controlled the most.
Yeah.
Because one of the features of emotion is that it gets rid of awareness. I'm not angry. You're angry. I'm behaving completely logically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your emotions are always influencing your behavior, and that's how they're designed.
Yeah.
So you know, when you say stupid, I mean like it's not really stupid. It's not stupid. It's uneducated, which is a big difference.
I love that too. Yeah, I agree.
Right? It's like because we don't get taught this. You fucking I don't know what the Welsh word for this stuff is, but you grew up learning Welsh and learning everything in Welsh.
Yeah.
And
I mean, like, everyone knows that, like, there's been, like, no help at all with, or any education on mental health or how to process emotions and whatnot. And even more so in the UK as well. It's pretty bad.
And there's a really cool study that was done in New York City where they taught kids social and emotional skills, and everyone like moved up one letter grade if they were in that. Like,
Wow.
Like, so it's worth 11 points on a 100-point scale is what it's worth when you just like understand yourself. And they also teach social skills, which is connected in some ways, but.
Yeah. I feel like social skills are important.
Do you want to share a little bit about what you're kind of taking away from the conversation where you are now?
Yeah,
no?
I guess.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to try and verbalize it, and you can tell me if I'm taking away the right things or the things I should be taking away. Basically, one, I have a self-fulfilling guilt cycle that I need to be more aware of and and take more action. Or not more action. The problem is I've taken too much action. I need to sit with it and realize why I'm feeling that way and take a more appropriate kind of time to analyze it, or to just not take action sometimes, which is I should do more. I also need to understand my emotions better and when they're affecting me, and recognize that and maybe sit with that as well. And also don't beat myself up when I'm not doing what I think is the perfect the thing that I should be doing in whatever capacity.
Yeah. Beautiful. So I would say a couple of small caveats there. Number one,
please.
I don't think you have to realize why you're feeling a particular way. Just notice that you're feeling it. You know, the realization will come later.
Okay.
Second thing is be careful about not beating yourself up for beating yourself up.
Okay, yeah, don't follow that cycle of then never beating yourself up.
Right. So what I want you to do is just acknowledge. I'll give you language. Sometimes this is helpful. Like, wow, I'm being really harsh on myself today.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do is just notice it. Not even that you have to change it. And if you're like, you can even ask yourself, like, okay, do I want to continue being this way with myself? And there are going to be days where you're going to be like, yeah, like this is actually what I need to do today.
Yeah.
So just add this awareness component. And it's beautiful. Like, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I think you've understood a ton. And my hope is that, like, I think you're going to be, I know you're doing really great, but like, it's like, you're doing you're scoring 100% in like 8 or 9 out of your 10 classes. And this is just the one thing that I think is missing a little bit, which you're doing fine. So there's, know, it's just all part of the growth or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that I was able to talk about it more.
Yeah. Any last thoughts or questions or anything else you want to talk about before we kind of wrap up for the day?
I guess one thing I've noticed that I shifted in myself. I'd love to hear your opinion on, or what you could kind of help me understand why this is. And I won't take up too much of your time. So when I was like younger, I was always way more angry. And I don't know what happened, but I just kind of stopped being angry. I don't know if that's just maturing or, but it's like to a noticeable amount now where I absolutely avoid, well, not avoid, but like, I will never ever like shout or raise my voice at someone, or get into like, even like when there's like situations where like everyone's getting heated and it could be like a fight or something, I'll just not get worked up. And I don't know why, because when I was younger, I always used to do that. And I wonder if you have any explanation of where that could come from.
What do you do with your emotions, Connor?
I don't know.
Okay, so how would you feel about yourself if you got angry?
I'd feel ashamed if I got angry, like genuinely angry at something. I always get like online, I always get, you always get worked up and stuff. And I love complaining and getting fake angry in private, but it's not like a genuine emotion of anger.
Would you let yourself get angry?
I think I would, but I'd never want to show it. I feel like it's and in my mind, I associate with it being like an ugly emotion.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, so the way that we become normatively male alexithymic is by suppressing our emotions.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's anger. I think you just do this weird thing where you take the things that you're angry at with other people, like your ex-girlfriend, and then you wind up blaming yourself. through
Yeah.
self-judgment. So if you want to know where it went, you stopped pointing it out there because it's ugly to show. It started floating around in here, and then it found a pretty good target. And hey, it turns out that like if you're angry at yourself and you're judgmental towards yourself, it really helps you a lot in life, because then you always want to be better. Why are you this way? Oh my God, why can't I sit with my emotions? How could I be so stupid?
Yeah.
That's anger, bro.
Very guilty of that.
Right?
Yeah, I'll only ever get angry at myself.
There you go. Well, there it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Where'd it go? You
Yeah.
just started pointing it inward because you would not allow yourself to point it outward. This you're not ready for, but at some point, you got to start getting angry at things outside of you as part of your growth.
Yeah.
Because this is where, I mean, the reason, going back to this relationship that you can't leave, it's because like you kept on getting angry with yourself instead of getting angry with them.
Yeah. That's true.
Because you wouldn't let yourself.
It seems like such a simple thing to connect the dots, but I wonder how I was just unable to connect those dots for so long.
Because you weren't taught how.
Yeah, true.
Right? I mean, that's what you wonder how, like, even that, like, look at that. Like, what you feel that emotion behind, how could I, it's so simple now. Like, self-judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, true. Because I feel like if I could be able to, if I'm talking to someone, I'd be able to recognize it pretty quickly in them, but I would never be able to recognize it in myself.
Yeah.
Which I guess is a normal part of being human, I guess, in some aspects.
Normative male alexithymia, because you turned off all the dials on internal emotional awareness, and you started fixing things through acting. And so that's the other thing. And it's really not your fault. This is normal. So once I start creating an environment, I mean, hell, you have a Google Calendar or whatever that's scheduled. You have external tools that keep you from feeling things. Yeah. And you figured out, holy shit, this is super cool. If I work 6 days a week, I try really hard to take 1 day off.
I do.
If you do all of these things, you can cultivate the right emotions within you. And then as you start to cultivate particular emotions in your garden, you can like prune all the anger. So where'd it go? You pruned it away. I would bet money that subconsciously you know the things that are going to upset you and you avoid them like the plague.
Yes.
Shocking. Right?
Yeah. That's fair.
So at some point, you're going to have to start engaging with those things, because now you're in a really tricky spot, because if you can't afford to let yourself feel angry, that means that there's a slice of life that you can't engage in.
I never thought about it that way, but that's really interesting. Yeah. That's a really interesting way of putting it.
Cool.
Damn.
What a great question.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you. Yeah. I guess, I was always curious about that, and I never connected the dots for some reason. And I guess I've always assumed these aspects of my emotional self and my life are all separate. But I also knew deep down that they were all connected, and I just didn't have the intelligence to realize how they were connected.
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word intelligence, but yeah. Right? I think it's just like, literally, dude, I mean, I went through this process. Like most people go through this process. And that gender gap is shrinking. But I would say 40 years ago, it was much more common in men. But like we still do this, where we solve our emotions on the outside. We shape our environment to evoke particular feelings.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so sometimes that means really good things, but it also opens us up to manipulation. And this, I don't want to go quite as far as saying, but sometimes when men are when you kind of mentioned that you were not the best relationship, sometimes the reason they're not the best is because people learn that, like, okay, if I can make this man feel this way, or even a woman, women can be vulnerable to this too. Anyone who solves, I see this a lot in women that are like put in very high pressure situations with tiger parents.
Right.
Where if I can make you feel a certain way, I can control your behavior, because the way that you manage your emotions is through behavior. You can't process it internally. So all I have to do is evoke an emotion, and then you'll dance like a puppet. And it is infuriating to be in those kinds of situations and not be able to control your emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess I thought I understood. I thought I knew how to control them. But, I mean, looking back, I can obviously tell that I was being controlled by my emotions in a lot of situations.
Cool.
Damn, it's very eye-opening.
Cool. Well, that's what we do here. Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
that must be cool to do this all the time.
I love it.
Yeah, it must be such a cool experience.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I really appreciate it.
It must be. I mean, we did it today.
Yeah, no, this feels great.
Yeah.
This feels awesome.
Yeah, cool.
I guess I'd always had just this adverse feeling to talking about it in any kind of capacity. So it's really nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, look at you being aware of your adverse feelings on the inside and how they shape your behaviors.
I know sometimes I'm just like, I'll not do that.
It's normal. So there's also a lot of studies that show that men are actually reluctant to engage in things like couples therapy because we feel outgunned. Because in heteronormative relationships, our female partners know how to articulate their emotions. But we just say like, you know, like we go into a couples therapist and then we did a YouTube video on this that a bazillion people have watched in like 24 hours. But that actually men feel outgunned because you go into a couples therapist and the couples therapist is like, how does that make you feel? And then your like female partner is like, it makes me feel, you know, like he wants me to be perfect and I feel inadequate. And she says all this shit. And then your therapist is like, yeah, like, wow, that must really hurt. And then she asks you, well, how does that make you feel? And you're like, bad.
Yeah. I'm very limited in my vocabulary of being able to express myself.
And so we feel disadvantaged when discussing our emotions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Got to get that advantage. I'm kidding.
Absolutely, man. So one question I have for you, one last question.
Sure.
Is do you have any anime recommendations?
Well, you had Gaunt on him. Gaunt's kind of the king of it.
Okay.
My anime recommendations are not as much good. I'm sure. I always say Death Note is a great starter. You should watch Death Note.
I love Death Note.
You like Death Note?
Love Death Note. So he recommended Monster, which I started to get into. But it seems
dude, God is so good at recommending. I would never have said Monster, but that's such a good recommendation for you. It's about this psychological monster who
I'm like 10 episodes in, but I kind of got bored. Does it get like better?
Yeah, that's the problem with the anime is that it kind of teeters out for about it really struggles in the 10 to 25 episode kind of segment, but after that it's really, really good.
Worth powering through.
I think it's worth powering through, definitely.
Okay, then I will do that.
Other anime, obviously Attack on Titan's an easy one to recommend if you haven't watched that.
I need to finish it. I think I did like the first part of season 4. That's how far.
I think there's like the final part is coming out like in November, I think.
Okay.
Psycho-Pass as well is a good one. If you haven't seen that one, have you heard about this one?
Yeah. I'm aware that it is an anime and it's supposed to be pretty good, but I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's about this kind of futuristic society where if somebody's, I guess, mental health is too bad, they get executed by the cops. But that's if they go off the limit, and then this works on every, this computer can decide everyone's mental score, and then there is one person who the computer just doesn't work on, and how that factors in.
Sounds cool, man. And
you would like that, I think. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks for the recommendation. I'll definitely check it out. And do you want to just tell us, I know that your podcast and stuff is huge, but we didn't give you a chance. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about where we can find you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Trash Taste podcast. I'm CDawgVA on like every social. Stream a lot on Twitch too, so come by. Yeah, it's normally good times, laughs, and no anger. Yes.
Nice.
Only fake anger. Exaggeration, like a good streamer.
By the way, there's one thing that I've noticed that people who do a lot of emotional suppression really love watching anime, because there's a compensatory hyper emotional component to most anime.
Well, it's funny, yeah, because I was really, really obsessed with anime growing up, and it's only really the past 4 years or so when moving to Japan, kind of stopped watching a lot of anime. I seldom watch anime anymore. It's a once a month kind of thing for me.
So what you do, manga or what?
I watch a lot of YouTube and a lot of crappy Netflix documentaries. If they release a documentary or anything, I'll probably watch it.
Interesting. Cool.
I'm a sucker for the format, even though I know it's completely oversaturated and overdone. But it's just like watching real stuff.
Any recommendations for documentaries then?
I watched one recently that was really good. I need to get the name right. I'll open up Netflix right now. It's about the people going for the record for taking the longest dive.
So it's about free diving?
Yes, it's horrific. You should, The Deepest Breath, you should watch it. It's really good.
Okay, cool.
It's 2 hours long, and it's terrifying. You just think that like, I'd love to see them on the show. You're like, how does your brain get to the point where you're like, I'm gonna dive 100 meters holding my breath? What are we escaping there? I'll tag team you. Good cop, bad cop.
Sure. Yeah. That's interesting. Are they? But okay, that's interesting. That does all kinds of weird things to pressure at 100 meters. But
yeah, you sink after like 30. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
After 30 meters, you just start sinking, and then your lungs like crumple up.
Yep.
But they somehow still swim back up. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Cool. Thanks for the recommendations. And so they can
love it if you. Yeah.
Cool. I'll definitely check it out. There's a lot of interesting physiology involved. But thank you so much for coming on, Connor. Hopefully we were not too harsh on you.
No, dude. If you came in here being like, Connor, you're an idiot. You got to work on this. What are you talking about? I'd be totally fine with that. You know.
So
I
one last question.
Go.
Why would you be fine with that?
I just something, didn't I?
No, but right. So think about it for a second. Like, why would you be okay with that?
I think being able to take criticism is very important, and being open to criticism is very important. I think because I'm sure you've all encountered that one person who's maybe doing something self-destructive, and you're like, hey, this is not good, and then they lash out for whatever reason. You're like, man, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. So I'd say that that's definitely there, but I'd be a little bit careful about whether that resonates with the way that you talk about yourself.
Okay.
Right? The way that you think about yourself. Like, oh yeah, like
Okay.
I'm flawed. I have lots of things wrong with me. And so if someone points them out to me, like, I'm game with that. And you're right. You're right that taking criticism is important. But anyway, we talked about thick skin.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think I have pretty thick skin.
Yeah.
Like I'm willing to. I mean, obviously you have to some extent when you're online all the time. But it's kind of a weird thing that happened is that when people start like nitpicking so many little things, I guess a part of my brain stopped shutting it out instead of being like, well, hold on, let's see if I can kind of take this all in and use all this to kind of improve myself. And so then I stopped seeing. I now I had to. The thing that I'm working on a lot now is trying to discern helpful criticism to people who are just trying to just unload. You know what I mean?
I was memeing a little bit, or not memeing, but I should have let it slide. But anyway, thank you so much, Connor, for coming on. And
dude,
Trash Taste Podcast, everybody should check it out. And good luck to you, dude.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate you giving me the time today.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. I mean, it takes two to tango.
Yeah,
you see what I did there?
Thanks,
I swatted away your niceness.
You did, and I said thanks, Matt. God damn, yeah. Okay.
No, I did it this time. You said thanks, and you were being genuine, and I was like, no, I'm going to say it takes two to tango, and I'm gonna give it back to you. So I know I know that backhand. So thanks a lot, Connor. Good luck with everything.
Pleasure,
yeah, thank you so much for coming on. Bye.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'll leave you to it. Have a great day.
Okay. Yeah. So by the way, like this stuff is very common. Okay. So like this whole thing, I mean, we talk about normative male alexithymia, but like I mentioned, I don't think it's like men exclusively by any means. It used to be a lot more exclusive to men, but I think we're seeing in general, our society is becoming more alexithymic. And as we become more alexithymic, and this is also, there's been like cultural changes, especially with expectations of women. So what used to happen is that as women have more agency, I don't know if y'all realize this, but we like expect a lot from women. So it's kind of like it's in a way, very similar problem to men, but it's kind of flipped on its head. Where now like the problem is that you're expected to do everything if you're a woman. And the challenge with men is that living up to the expectations that we have as men is becoming increasingly difficult. Right? So like the world is changing and you just can't support a family of 4 on like a single income anymore. Like it's very hard to do. It's hard to make more than your significant other if you're in a heteronormative relationship. If you're a man, it's becoming increasingly difficult as more women become educated and whatnot. And we still hold the men to those expectations. The challenge for women is that we hold them to all. There's a whole new set of expectations, but oftentimes they get crunched between the two because women are expected to be men now and be women. So you're supposed to have a career and be a boss babe, right? And also have kids. And like, just all the expectations are increasing for women. And for men, what's happening is I don't know that the expectations are increasing. We have just not adjusted the expectations for the different world that we live in today. So it's hard. But y'all need to be really careful if you do this, okay? That there are two ways to manage emotions. One is to process them internally. I feel something, I'm going to do something internally. The other thing that we can do is shape something in the outside environment to change the way that we feel. I can surround myself by people who are ass kissers. I can cut myself off from people who make me feel bad about myself. And so this is kind of what's happening in our society, and it's kind of scary because we are losing the capacity to moderate and manage our own internal state. So trigger warnings are actually a really good example of this, where people are like, this thing makes me feel a certain way, so I need you to stop saying it. And we should be sensitive to people's triggers. I'm not saying that we should completely ignore them. There's evidence, by the way, that trigger warnings actually don't help anything and actually increase anxiety, which is interesting. They're probably actually harmful, is what the data says right now, but we'll see. But the more devastating thing is that the moment that you stop being able to manage your internal emotional state based on what other people say is the moment that you surrender control of yourself to the outside world. And this is what's happening in our society. We're becoming more fragile because we're not learning emotional regulation skills. And the reason we're not learning emotional regulation skills is because we have a coping mechanism at our fingertips that we've never had before that manages emotions for us. And that, boys and girls, and everything in between, is this. Right? I can play 8 hours of video games a day, and that manages my emotions. And so we've got to be super careful, because now what we're sort of discovering is we as humans are getting worse at managing our internal environment. And so we try to shape the external environment. And by the way, like the external environment loves this. So now, instead of I feel ugly about myself, let me work on my confidence. Someone's like, oh, you feel ugly? Oh, boy, do I have a special cream for you. You can buy this shampoo, you can buy this cream, you can buy these very special pants. They call it shapewear. I don't know if you guys know what shapewear is. It is clothing that artificially constricts part of your body. It's like the corset is making a return. That's literally what it is. Went away for a while. And as we've increased body positivity, the amount of shapewear that we're selling is going through the roof. Cosmetic surgery is on the rise. Body positivity. Let's accept everyone. Right? It's like body positivity brought to you by a cosmetic company. So this is what's beautiful for them, is that as we get worse at managing our internal emotional state, they have something to sell you that will make you feel better. And I think it's a very good idea to start to feel comfortable in your skin. That's awesome. Like, right? So if you're unhappy with something about yourself, by all means, like, do healthy stuff around it. But this is what's happening, is we're starting to outsource the management of our emotions. And as we outsource it, we lose control to the people that we're giving the power to. So if y'all want to change this, you got to learn how to manage your emotions without fixing something. You don't have to fix something. Right? It's one thing to be, and it's okay to be unhappy with yourself. Right? But that change should be like internal and to a certain degree external. Like if you're unhappy with the way that you look, go and be comfortable in your body. Feel proud of the person that you are. And if you're not capable of doing that, I don't think a particular cream is going to fix that. But by all means, create a body that you can be proud of. That I'm all for. But you have to do the creation. You can't outsource that. And this is one of the reasons that I respect people who are in shape the most. Being in shape is the one thing that you can't buy. It's the one thing. You have to put in the effort. You have to restrict your diet. You have to exercise. It's the one thing. No one else can do it for you. And boy, have people tried. They've got all these like devices and stuff that will electrically stimulate your abdominal muscles so you can sit on your ass and get a workout. And there are absolutely situations where like financial support is good, right? So you can hire personal trainers. You can even hire personal chefs. You've got like a ton of money. So the things you can do, money helps with that, but it's the one thing that you have to earn yourself. Okay. Cool. Who are you rating, chat? Thank you all for coming today. And one last thing. So, some of the stuff that we taught Connor today is like, we take that approach in coaching, which is to try to understand, okay, like let's understand what's going on inside you. And let's try to figure out if you want to put together the life that you want. This is sort of the core of our coaching program. So if you want to put together the life that you want, the hypothesis, my core hypothesis is that you look at as many productivity YouTube videos as you want. But at some point when you translate the advice of others through you, there's an API that connects productivity to you. That API, you can't just download that. It doesn't work. There's an internal component. And that's the thing, is we go on searching for answers out there. I want to try this. 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 I went to this person. They said do this. I went to this person. I did this course. I did this. At some point, you got to work on yourself. And that's what our coaching program is designed to do. Help you understand the parts of yourself and how those parts relate to what you want to accomplish in life. So what kind of confuses people is we don't give you like a curriculum. It's not like day 1, do this, day 2, do this. There's 1,000 people that do that. The problem is that you can sign up for a curriculum, but you don't end up doing it anyway. Why is that? And there are some core patterns inside you that we're not really aware of. And that's what we try to address in coaching. Okay, we're going to raid Henya. So this is fun because it's a Friday, and we also get to, it's a Friday. So since it's a Friday, we get to like be on when other people are on. So you guys are saying Henya. Is it which Henya? With lots of, there's lots of Henya the Genius. Okay. We're going to raid Henya the Genius because apparently, they're playing what looks like Paper Mario maybe. Or Yoshi's Island? Maybe Yoshi's Island. I can't tell. Henya the Genius it is. Let's go, chat. Happy Friday, everybody. Take care of yourselves and be good. Alrighty. Raid is incoming. GG. Boom.